Welcome to the Valley of Outlaws podcast, a podcast for those looking to take the road less trodden, and a podcast for those seeking more. All right, Greg, you're Outlaw number 34 on the Valley of Outlaws podcast. I always like to ask my guests the same opening question, so I'm going to go straight in with it. So, in your own words, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do what you do?
Well, first off, Will, just thank you so much for having me on. This is such an honor to be an outlaw, finally.
Finally.
It's fantastic. I mean, I think what you're doing with the podcast and your artwork is absolutely incredible. So
Thank you.
It's great to be a neighbor. And let me tell you a little bit about what I do. So my name is Greg Randolph. I'm currently living in London. I'm a recent graduate of the London Film School. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm currently looking for work and an active writer, director, and producer. And then the last question was why?
Why do you do what you do?
So the reason that I do what I do is, I mean, I think the easy answer is because I love it. But it's really just... there's so many aspects to filmmaking that are interesting to me, and it's such a great combination of all those aspects. So what I would say is that it's just such a nice melody of all the different HOD roles that all kind of come together. I guess with a director, it's a bit like a composer. It's also somebody who steps back after you've put all these great pieces together. And you get something really, really beautiful out of it, and something you can it isn't necessarily tangible that you can hold it in your hand to film. You know, it's something that's projected, but it's something that feels very real, and it feels very and I guess it's kind of true with all art. You have this beautiful product at the end of it that's very visual, and you can learn something from, and that lights my fire like 100%. Like I really love to tell the story, and maybe have other people have different interpretations of it. So maybe that gives you just a little sense of kind of the myriad ways that I think a film can explore a topic, inspire somebody, and to be a part of that is just a blessing.
I mean, so most people, when they watch film, they see the actors and they go, I want to be an actor.
Yeah.
So what is it? What was it about being a director? Like, how did you first, I guess, become aware of the role of director and how it could be good for you?
Oh man, it's a great question. And I just think early on, I was really, really hyped on exploring more about what was in filmmaking. I think there was a world where it's like, I'm just going to enjoy these and, figure out my path and, find work somewhere that seems more practical and makes more sense. But very early on, I was like, these are such exciting things that are happening on the screen. Where are they happening, and why do I know so little about it? It all excites me so much in regards to even what movies would be like in 300 years from now. So to answer your question, I think the director mindset for things, it was very early on. Watching kind of. I'm trying to think when I maybe became aware of Ridley Scott after watching a movie like Alien or something like that. But it must have been a few years after or something like that. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't immediately like, oh, let me go figure this guy out, because when you're young, it's but it was very soon that it was just a natural process.
What age were you when you had that vision that director was the?
It's a great question. It's got to be 12 or 13.
Really?
I think definitely just it's a great question. I never thought about exactly when, because it just feels like such a natural process.
When you were younger, what kind of other passions did you have around it, which kind of led into this kind of career path?
Other passions. I was drawing for a little bit, but I hear from cinematographers, because I have my own podcast as well, the London United Filmmaker podcast, which you've been incredibly helpful with setting up and just giving me some ideas and kind of just we're just kind of brainstorming some stuff. So thank you so much. But on my podcast, I highlight generally emerging filmmakers, cinematographers, composers. The list goes on. And so what I've noticed is, speaking with cinematographers specifically, they're often drawers very early on, and they draw and they draw and they draw, and then that seems to somehow find its way into the camera. And I would say I was not obsessively drawing per se. I always loved writing. I was never I was never good in class in the sciences. I was never good in math. I wasn't a very good student overall. I was not. I wasn't. I was. I just never got good grades, and I always kind of struggled with that. So I always felt a little bit kind of like I was letting people down by not getting good grades. Maybe I didn't try. I think I talk about discipline. Maybe I was just I didn't care. I don't know. But English and writing was always exciting to me. Like it was always like a take home test where I could take it home and I could really study and I could write something that I really enjoyed. Enjoyed using words. I enjoyed reading. I love to read, and yeah, I think that's maybe all has to do with like world building.
100%.
The Harry Potter books, Goosebumps back in the day. I would read those like a ton of them, and it was just world building, and that was always very exciting for me. And so that's probably what kind of has bridged, that or has scratched that kind of creative itch from another angle, maybe. But it was never really. I mean, I've dabbled in some painting here and there when I was in New York, and I make some music. I have a guitar. I play a little bit of music. I play with a band, just some friends from LFS. Right in Shepherd's Bush here at Bush Studios. But we never really recorded anything crazy. I played with a couple friends over COVID back in Boston, but always that was very much a relaxed step back from filmmaking, which was a lot more me kind of taking things more seriously and trying to build things that way.
Yeah, no, nice. Let's jump into the directing stuff. So can you, for someone who doesn't know, maybe describe the role of a director, the responsibilities of a director, and how you kind of fit into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you start by finishing the script, and writing something you're really passionate about, with characters that are doing things that, interest you, and like a plot that's, that you feel like might challenge the audience in some way, or that, it's a story that really strikes you and you feel like visually it'll really work and it'll inspire people. And so you kind of put all that together, and you continuously write. Like that kind of goes up until a point where you kind of have to really like lock it in so that people can do the other jobs they want to do. Then you, what I would say is you start to pick a team, and it starts with a producer. I think producers is the most important, but that's a difficult one because they're all really important. But producer's there with you the whole way through. So I'm lucky to have Stanley Matthews, who I've worked with on my grad film, Different Faces and Swimming, and we'll work together on this new film we're developing. He's Qatari-based. Producer, works a lot with the Doha Film Institute, but incredible person, very supportive. He's like your right-hand man, kind of, just always, sharing successes, sharing failures, like just someone, you're like great backup. And so he'll get involved, and we'll start to kind of plan things out. We'll look at the finances of it, like for this project. Even in the pitching stages, you kind of want a rough budget together. You want a beautiful pitch deck, and you want a script, and you want, that's where I come in again. A lot of times early on, it's just be your biggest fan, and so we'll be going to Cannes Film Festival. Different Faces is playing in the short film corner there, which is great. And I'm gonna pitch the film.
So when you're writing, you're pitching, you're producing now, you're still not even 100% sure that the film's even going to be made at this point. It's a case, or you're trying to find the right investment. Are you able to start it without investment at all and go on a very low budget? And
it's a really good question. So the way in my mind is it's the film is happening. The film is happening. And again, like if I were to convince you, I'd say like, listen, I've got great connections with like Panavision and all these great lighting companies. I've got connections with Kodak. They've provided a lot of great opportunities for me. I want to bring them back again. And then if you're the film lab, you will be the icing on the cake that I'll tell them that I'm developing this with an amazing film lab who's got me all these connections with beautiful film festivals around the world and all this different stuff. We need to make this film. It's just, I've got, not only that, I'm connected with LFS. I've got a great cinematographer on board. I've got a great production designer on board. We're representing not only LFS, we're representing you, we're representing Kodak. Let's make it. It's a short film. It's only 20 minutes.
I'm in.
Yeah, right. Like that's it. Like it's just immediately exciting. And I think the thing is that we'll put your name in the credit, and then it'll screen in a lot of great festivals. My previous films have gotten into some great festivals, so let's keep this party going. Not only that, I've got a podcast. I've done some great interviews with Ken Loach at LFS, with James Friend, Academy Award winning cinematographer. Like, this is just the beginning of a very exciting path forward, and I'll continue to be connected with LFS, and it'll just keep going, and we'll start to get into features, and it'll be just more of more of like this like exciting path forward where you're getting someone who's not just telling like the same stories too, like something that's like does feel quite like its own style, and that it's in its own has its own kind of great energy that is what you want from like an auteur. You want someone who's going to give you, kind of jump you into like look at Wes Anderson. You know what I mean? What's fun about watching some of his films, whether you like him or hate him, is that he does have this kind of extremely unique style that people will watch in hundreds of years from now and go, oh, well, he was really doing something different. He was really, and that's something I don't necessarily see myself as like totally like in Wes Anderson's style per se, but it's exciting to think about that in relation to kind of all the landscapes around. So the question again was, sorry.
So it was more like you've done the writing, and you've got your producer on board, and like the pitching part is like, do you need to have these studios on board? Are you able to move forward without them and do it very on a low key budget? And like, how important is to have that backing as a director?
So what I would say is like, we have a budget in mind, and we were going to try really hard to get to that budget, and that's the trick. And then we say, listen, we want to shoot end of summer, early autumn, and that's our like sticking point. And then say nothing happens up until then we have to have another discussion. We have to kind of look at the script and either break the script down and try and figure out how to make it for cheaper.
And once you've got kind of like the finance stuff, what point do you bring in your kind of director of photography and production designers and that kind of thing? And
so for me, it's already happened.
Okay, so you've got your team decided when you go and get your finance, basically.
I have a cinematographer in mind, because
on every film, is it the same person, or do you pick or choose the right ones?
It changes. So what I would say is, for the previous two, I worked with Bethany Yang, who's a brilliant cinematographer. Just really enjoyed her style. We were in the same cohort growing up. It seems like it's been a lifetime. Yeah, in uni. Just really gravitated to her work. I produced a film she DP'd in term 4, and just incredibly hardworking. So I said, like, you can't really go wrong, with somebody who really cares and really wanted to shoot film. So we made a film called Swimming, which, got made Earl's Court Film Festival, got around a little bit, and it was just very nice. It's going to be playing at schools around Ukraine for students who don't really have access to international cinema. That's just such music to my ears. It's just such a nice, and that's all kind of just through different film festivals you hear about and submit to, and that's it. And then with this one, I would say to me it's very much like what makes sense as opposed to trying to go by any book. So that goes all the way through. So that goes into the writing. So for this film, I actually got the concept pitched to me by the DOP, by the cinematographer. He said, Greg, I got this idea. It's called The Sky Doesn't Grieve Over Its Fallen Stars. And there's some images I specifically have about a woman in kind of this long flowing dress leaving this building and kind of having this chance encounter with this taxi driver in like an old dilapidated car, and they go on this journey together. And he kind of pitched me that like seed of an idea, I guess. And I just wrote a script around it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this was something, we were actually in Mexico. I was producing a film in Mexico. He was gaffing. He was doing the lighting for the project. And, I was kind of, I don't know. I was writing a lot of different things, but I just thought, all right, let me run with this, submitted it to this lab, and boom. So now here we are, so it's kind of just, I enjoy that because that I think keeps things fresh, who knows with the feature, again, it's something that was kind of came from me and just was something I was fascinated by. Also, different faces. Yeah. Something more just, I think that's a very fun way to challenge yourself, is to write something and then try and figure out how to direct it and how you're going to bring that to life. I think there's something I guess you call pure about it, and just something where, again, like realizing that all the way through. I think that's just it just feels so not healthy, but like there's just something very, and it's not cathartic either, but there's just something very, exciting, and it just feels like pulling something out of the ether, like but that's very palpable. I mean, right? Sometimes it's hard to explain exactly the reasons you love it so much, but yeah, it's just that's
Yeah,
why
no, fair.
that's why I do it. It's just there's just a beautiful kind of questioning in it or something.
What do you think? I guess the key skills that you need to develop as a director are to be able to deliver a project.
Yeah, to continue forward. I think I mean, it's discipline's a bit too, I think, like a big word for it, but a bit more. I think there's always like a level of focus that can always be improved, and like even like memory, because there's so many things to like.
Of course, yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Production design, the TV we're going to use, and the carpet we're going to use, and what's the couch going to represent? What's the color of the couch we're going to represent? How does this fit into the story? Are they in love? Are they friends? Is this a moment where there's a lot of heightened dramatic tension, or is it subdued? What does the ocean represent in this scene? What does the color of the car represent? And you can really go there, and it's much better when you do.
Oh, in terms of like, what about like communication and trust as well? Like because from my little understanding of directing, you imagine you need to be a very good communicator with the people around you for them to understand. You also need to be able to build and give trust to those around you who you've put in positions to be able to deliver their job. Like, how hard is it to not become a micromanager, or do you need to become a micromanager? Like, what's the balance you find with that, especially when you've got so many people doing so many things to deliver this production?
So I'd say I think this is really where I feel like I excel. I think I can generally get people to like me. I know that sounds a little bit like a salesman pitch or something like that, but like I really feel like I have a demeanor that's like, whether we're meeting for the first time or we've been friends for 30 years, it's all good, and like creating a sense of comfort and a sense that people are being taken care of. Because film sets, your 12-hour day is easy, and you'll slow down when you're that. Especially if it's with these vertical dramas, it's a scene a minute. Like you're setting up, you're breaking down, you're setting up, you're breaking down. You're all over the city, and you're shooting for 7 to 9 days, and it's just pretty unforgiving. And the food may be good, might not be good. You're kind of just out there. And you need someone. I think there needs to be someone at the center that, because especially early on, a lot of these students coming straight out of school will then get put into this stuff, and I think it can be a little bit disorienting. Like, am I being taken advantage of? Who are these people that are financing this, and is there anybody here that I can trust as someone in the center? And I'm that guy for sure. Like you got to keep everyone in mind. You got to make sure everyone's feeling okay. Health and safety is number one. And then that you're telling a story that's exciting. And to me, I've just been doing it so long that I know, like, and it's also just, it's not just that, because it's not just, oh, you've been in the game, but it's also that like you can get on the same page with actors, and that you can really champion them and get them excited, and not feel like they're being taken advantage of as well, or that you're just treating them like, okay, now go do that thing, off you go, like there's a part of that, but they love it. Like, actors want to be in front of the camera. They want to have this great performance. They want to be a new person. They want to kind of go in there and explore, and the director is just there with them. And the further you can go, the better. The further you can get excited about this character, even if it's kind of a character that's quite close to who the person might be, or on the other side of the world, you're playing some type of monster or demon or something like that, or something crazy. Like the director, I think the director should be able to kind of go, and then also you can throw in, I think everyone there's lots of different methods. I was speaking with Antonio Donato the other day, who's directed some brilliant short films, where he throws some things in the works, where he'll say, he won't inform an actor that something's about to happen to get that natural surprise. And that's cool as well. Like, I think for me, I'm very excited. I would be excited to try things like that more often, but I'm very much someone who again, with this short film I'm developing, I've got my actress in place, and we've been meeting quite regularly. And actually we met early on when I'm still working on the script, because I want her to understand it in some way. Sometimes that might hurt you, but it just makes sense to me to do this stuff and to experiment. I mean, it's endless experimentation with this stuff. That's what, continues the thing forward. So,
And do you have to change the way you are with people from the writing stage to the delivery? Because the writing stage is all about creativity. How do we make this work? How does this flow? And then once you're out there directing, is it more like, right, action, we've got to get this on this timeline to this point it's done? Or do you have a lot more flexibility and adaptability for people?
it's a great question, because there's lots of different styles. Hitchcock, he said the film was done before he stepped on set, something to that effect. So he was a mastermind. I mean, he was an engineer. He was like, it's just done. You know what I mean? And then we're just going to go shoot. We're going to shoot the film. Yeah. But everything else has
been decided.
It was all decided. And you can see that in the work, man. And it's great. It's amazing. You know what I mean? He's one of the best to ever do it. But then you have the complete opposite. You have Godard, who did Breathless and was writing scenes down on paper. And French New Wave was a lot of just this. We have this new, very simple camera. We can film anywhere and any which way we want, and we can. And it's cinema verite. It's just very free, and all that beauty is very apparent. I mean, Godard is one of my favorite directors ever. So it's there's endless. What I would say is that especially early on, especially with like people coming out of film school and students who are still trying to figure out to have something pretty nicely in place is important. Which is the importance of an assistant director. Yeah, structure helps for sure, especially when we're early on. But again, that's kind of goes down the two routes of like, let's do something that's a little bit more formalized in this lab and a little bit more money behind it. And then I'm also keen for documentary as well. I mean, I absolutely love documentary, and I would love to do more documentary. I did a documentary in term 3 on a day food service in Clapham, which I'm very proud of, called Ace of Clubs. And I absolutely love it, man. I absolutely love like following people and having them doing their routines and their whatever their life might entail, and kind of having a camera there to follow them, and then crafting something in the edit is like, I absolutely love it. And
do you think that's where a lot of the movie's made, in the edit as well? Like, you capture all these scenes, then it's also how you put it together to really make it flow.
Yeah. I would say I was just talking with at the party last night. It's all LFS people. So I was talking with someone about the rushes, when you get the rushes back. So the film gets developed, and then you look at the rushes, and that can be a very nerve-wracking experience, because you're looking at something and you're going. I remember with my film.
Can you say what the rushes are? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. So rushes are a string out of all of the things you filmed. So you just watch it. No grade, no sound, or if you can have the sound synced in if you'd like, but it's just to
shows it all back to back.
Get it. Yeah, all the takes, everything, and then you say, okay, I like take 1, and I like take 3 here, and I like, we should ditch this. Oh, that was awful. Like, but that can be a nerve-wracking experience, and oftentimes people go out of that and go, oh no, like this is really a problem, and then you start to edit it. And you start to sync the sound, and that's all very, very nice stuff. And you start to have discussions about sound design, and and it gets to a place, you hopefully that you're like, it was night and day. I feel quite in control in the edit, even though I think it's very, very important. It's why there's other HODs, editor being one of them, like head of post-production essentially, is because it's get it away from you. Someone else should be able to realize what you wrote.
Do the other big directors have that? So someone like Christopher Nolan or Ridley Scott,
it varies.
How do they do that?
Another director I love, Kelly Reichardt, edits all her films. And you see it. You see that she kind of has this kind of logic in her editing. It's not complicated, because she's got enough to worry about writing and directing. And so she's not like doing these wild, experimental edits that are quite, super fast or anything like that, at least that I've seen. It's all there, and you can see that was her mindset from the beginning. She was going to edit it when she was developing it, and that's what popped out. So I would say, just to answer your question, I think editing is absolutely changes the film, and you might have something completely different than but it's just another part of the process. I don't necessarily see it as like, game changing, like, oh my God, like again, from my films, right? Like from my films, it's all, I like to try and conceive what the editing is going to look like. I'm definitely not someone who's like, ooh, I got this great idea for like how I'm going to totally re-edit this last bit. If I plan to edit the film in the development process, I've got a great idea of how I'm going to do that before I shot the film.
Yeah.
I think that's what I love about having edited previously when I was doing television, was that I think it's not like I developed a style per se, but I developed a confidence.
Yeah. But you understood the discipline.
Yeah.
As my next question was going to be, how important is it for you as a director to understand all the disciplines of the heads of departments around you, to understand, editing, photography, lighting, sound? Like, you have to have a certain level of knowledge to know what you're trying to get back.
Okay, so I'll give you an example for like cinematographer. Like I shot so much stuff, music videos, documentary things. After I left NBC, I had my own production company there and was just doing a lot of work in Brooklyn and Bronx. Would go up to the Bronx, shooting videos and just everywhere, just editing stuff. I edited for Zagat for a little while. Yeah, just like anything that would come my way was just fun to do. And what I would say is that so cinematography, I did a ton of cinematography. I know f-stop. I know different lenses. I know generally what different lenses can do. I know what different sensors can do. I know what Sony cameras can do versus Canon cameras versus, and you definitely take a step up when you do you get into film school, right? Like, because everyone's gonna find a specialization, right? That's the whole point. Is like you can't just LFS does do a very much a you learn the disciplines. That's kind of their calling card, but at some point you got to let go. So I know a great deal about cameras. I love to go to BSC. I love to see all the cameras. I love to be friends with all the different exhibitors and different things like that. But at some point you got to give that to Vaibhav, or you got to give that to Jumbo or Bethany, and you got to say you got to make some decisions about the script based off what I've written, and then you bring them to me. Like, we should have a discussion together. Don't pull the wool over. I'm not someone who's like, I don't care about camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go there and just work with the actors, and like, you set up the camera. I don't know about that camera though. Like, are you recording? Okay, I don't know. What's that do? Yeah. I know a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think there's an obsessive kind of aspect of my personality where I want to know. I want to know maybe about the recorder the sound guy is using and what kind of mic, but I'm not going to go up to him and be like, so can you, but if it's windy outside or something like that, of course you're going to have a conversation with the sound recordist. You're not going to be like disregarding, because as soon as you disregard him or forget about that role, you're going to get some crappy sound. And then the guy's going to be like, I don't know, should I talk to Stanley about this? Should I talk to Greg about this? Someone has got to say, stop. Okay, we're going to redo this, because maybe the AD, if you have a great AD who's keeping an eye out behind you, because again, like, the sound might not be the first thing in my mind if it's a really important scene and we're shooting on a boat. I'm really worried about the actors and that we're getting a performance that's really, really working. So, and that's the things that go through a director's head, is it's a million things. So you have to have those great people around you that are not only doing their disciplines, but also watching the disciplines. So again, AD and producer and...
It's that level of trust, as we said. Like, you have to have trust in your people around you to be able to come up to you and say, actually, Greg, hold on a sec. You haven't seen this. This isn't going right here. And you go, okay, how do we fix that?
100%. And that is something that's like a person, having like a good, I don't know, it's weird, a good personality, but having like someone that wants to tell you that information, that goes, fuck Greg, like forget about it. This movie's trash anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want someone that's all excited about the film.
Yeah.
And like, I can't wait to like have the premiere of this. You know what I mean? And just all of us together, just whether it makes that big festival or not, that we're creating something that's exciting, that people, that
want to see.
Yeah. And that's kind of an X factor thing,
It leads nicely to this next question. So
cool.
How important is it for you to be passionate about all of this? And as you said, have the team be passionate about individual roles?
I mean, I love it. Again, that goes, it's kind of like an X factor thing. It's like to me, it comes naturally that I love it, and that it's like not just the watching experience of movies, but in fact, much more the making. The making is the fun. The making is, it's why you paint, I imagine. It's the journey.
Process.
It's the journey, not the finish line, destination. Yeah. So I mean, that because there's a lot more stories there. You know, that once you're at the end, I feel good. Now I can sit and have a martini or something like that and just relax. But the journey is like, it's really difficult. It can be painful. You know, there could be bad things that happen or whatever. And it's a team that go through that and you have to do it. And why do you do it? I guess for the finish line, I guess so that you can have a finished product you're proud of and that you can continue. But you can learn something about yourself on the journey as well.
No, 100%.
That's why we live our lives.
Yeah, 100%. Have you ever done any part of a role or a thing where you haven't had the passion and you felt your lack of ability to deliver well?
I mean, a good example would be like some of the vertical dramas where I get handed 120 pages. We're going to shoot this in 7 days, and it's written by AI for sure.
Even though we're not
and I don't even care. Like to me, it's like, and then I look at it and I go, okay, well, how do I get excited about this? What is this? Is this like a soap opera? Is this essentially kind of, your daytime kind of like TV? That's fine. Like, I think at the end of the day, whether it's a script I wrote or it's something that might seem a little schmaltzy or seem a little cheesy, like, let me make it my own. Because I think I'm passionate about, again, the making of it and like the fact that I'll be able to meet some actors, I'll be able to meet some new producers, I'll be able to meet some new people in the industry. Yeah. We'll be working breakneck speeds. I'll be able to shoot something long form that I really haven't done before. And that's a new, beautiful experience in film. It's not necessarily like, oh God, the script, I'm not going to bellyache about it. I mean, I'm getting paid.
How have you developed the skill to say no though when a project comes and you?
I don't know if I'm at that part of my career yet. Will like
no?
I think I
say yes
do.
To everything you
I
have
will
to?
get there. I will get there 100%. But I think I'm just recently graduated. I'm hungry for more work. I'm keen as a director, but I'm also keen as a producer. I've produced some grad films as well. I like. I think my true passion is in directing. For whatever reason, that leadership, that creative leadership, that kind of you're in the center, but you also step back and let the others do all, let them direct, let the production designer direct the scene and be there with that specific prop and those specific, that specific set, like going in and out of that, like kind of almost like a chameleon or something like that. But then producing is very, very enjoyable for me because you're right there with the director again, facilitating and looking out, if, I don't know, if something crazy happens, maybe the director can continue forward and the producer can go put out the fire. Sure. And then he won't even know about it until the end. And then you tell him all the crazy things that happened while he was just just working on this one scene, and getting it done. Yeah. And that's teamwork. That's full on teamwork. And so, yeah.
Can we talk about your journey as well? So you did undergraduate and then you were editing in New York.
Yep.
How come you decided to come to the London Film School? Like, was it always part of your plan to go? Was it undergraduate film as well? I imagine.
No. I went to public high school, Westwood High School. Great high school experience. Great friends, just amazing. I think I was a little bit immature, and I just didn't really know what my direction was fully. And so I went to Providence College. Great college experience. Learned a ton. I was an English major and a film minor. Okay. I learned about Final Cut 7 there. They had an editing lab there, and I just took to editing and I went, ooh, this is a great key in. Like if I learn editing, I can do some things. And with the film minor program, there wasn't much of a film program at Providence College. Great city, fun to be in Rhode Island, kind of just like a little independent, kind of in between New York and Boston. I totally recommend you visiting. It's just like great food, great Italian restaurants, great atmosphere. Brown and RISD are right up on Thayer Street. Great schools. And but I took the film program for all it was worth. Like I made like a whole independent study for myself. I did a documentary and a short film that I screened in like their cinema there.
Well, before you'd even, so that was just while you're doing your minor in editing?
Yes, minor in just film. It was just a film minor.
Okay.
And then I was, yeah. So it was just like, I did the documentary on a cool music venue there called Lupo's, which has changed its name now. But I was following like a punk band there, just interviewing them. And then I did a short film on a picture book by Chris Van Allsburg called The Stranger. And I casted my friends and shot in like a random part of Rhode Island, or picked them up from Boston, and it was just maybe 3 or 4 of us. But yeah.
So then after that, then you went and got a job working for NBC.
So I graduated and lucked out and got a freelance job digitizing for ABC. I had an aunt that lived in New York, and I was at home for maybe 4 or 5 months, and found this freelance job, 30 hours a week, at ABC. And so I moved into the Upper East Side. I was out in Queens for a little while, commuting in. My grandparents lived out there. I moved into the Upper East Side. I ended up finding a place on the Upper West Side. And I was 30 hours a week there for maybe a year, and I just slowly started connecting with, as my bosses would leave to go to other companies within New York. I was just like, keep me in mind. So I was editing internationals at ABC, which is stripping down like shows like 2020 and Nightline, and there was a show called What Would You Do, and getting them ready for sale internationally. So you basically get rid of all the captions, get rid of all the English text, and then they would slap their own text on it once it gets to that destination. So I was doing that on the weekends. I was doing the 30 hours of digitizing. And so digitizing is essentially producers would come in with tapes from Hurricane Sandy or any type of disaster or story, and I would take them. There were airspeeds, 20 airspeeds on a big. It was a great way to kind of get into like real, like the big process of editing, because you'd record them on all these podcasts, and you'd get beta tapes. You get old tapes of JFK speech, from like the 60s or something like that, and you could record it, then you put it onto Avid Interplay system, because everyone edited on Avid. That was the editing software. You'd take it and you'd copy and paste it into like the editor's folder, and then they'd start editing it. And so you were kind of that like and it was exciting, because it was there'd be times when it would be super super busy. There'd be times when you could kind of chill out, just chat with the other digitizers, because it was like 2 seats. So it was a very cool experience. Just very just young, enjoying the city, and just luckily had this job, just really like. And then so I had bosses that would go, one went to HBO and one went to NBC, and I just followed them there. I was doing like captioning for like when I was originally starting at NBC, I was at LX TV, and they have Open House, George to the Rescue, First Look, like basically all these lifestyle kind of TV shows. So I ended up, long story short, I ended up full-time at Open House. I was editing Open House for about 4 years. And it was originally just segments, and just a beautiful penthouse in the Upper East Side, and this place out in Connecticut, and then slowly I got into editing the show. And so I was getting it to time, color grading it, sound mixing it, just doing 20, it had to be 2 time, because it has to be very specific for the commercial breaks and all that. And luckily through that we won 3 Emmys. I submitted every year. I submitted my favorite show for the awards, and it was great. It was a great like little run.
Okay, and so while you're doing that, and you still had the goal of being a director at that point, or
So
how are you doing that, and still planning in your head to jump in from editing to directing? And what happened to you then going, right, I need to go to university in London to do, I guess, a master's in film?
It's a great question. So basically, all this time I was like, editing is my way in. Let me like learn more. I don't know anybody in film or TV or anything, so let me edit and just figure out some things. And slowly, as I was at NBC, and like I had this kind of established, this little space, I was like a certain sense of comfort, and I was enjoying the city. It was great, but I was wanting to direct. I mean, truly, like I was just wanting to have more of the experience of being like a part of like an on-set thing. And I wasn't getting those opportunities per se. They really stuck me in the chair and said, "Oh, we want you to edit." So I started doing music videos and things outside, and I learned multicamming. And I remember my first music video, I had an ad on Craigslist that said, "I'll make your next music video." And people would hit me up, and I went up to the Bronx, met this really, really cool kid. Bills Vuitton was his rap name. Really cool dude. young guy. I had a little kid. I met him on Gun Hill Road in the Bronx, which I was like, I don't know where the hell that is. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm taking a train up there with my camera and some lenses, and we shot a video. And I mean, it was like, that's the thing is like, you wonder, like, am I going to get, is this necessarily, could this be bad or something like that? But I figured he's got a song, so let me just go up there and shoot the video on like a Saturday. Why not? Like, this will be really cool. And then I can say I directed it because there ain't no one else there. It's just, so I started to push that, and it got to a point where I was just like, I was burnt out with the editing. As much as like it was such a great position, I wanted to explore. I really wanted to go after directing more and trying to find at least shooting more. So I left, and I kind of went out. I had my company. I started a company there, and I did kind of some of the things I was saying, was really just shooting in New York and having that experience, again, ups and downs of that, because you're leaving such a great, established company. But I'm glad I did.
How long did you do that? Had your company for?
Oh God, that was like up until, I had it all through COVID, but I was active with Randolph Media from 2016 to, I guess up until school, maybe 2021. But it was good. It was a good experience. It was just me running the company. It was kind of just, I was just shooting from the hip. And I would do things differently now, but it was just kind of my kind of way of like expressing like my own independence for my passion for what I was doing at the time,
100%. You're building evidence of the ability you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right?
And getting the website together and just really having the reel and just showing what I could do behind the camera more.
And why then did you decide to go and come to London Film School when you already were slowly building up?
It wasn't, I don't think I was getting the kind of, what's the word? Like
traction?
The traction that I wanted. It was, I was doing a lot of it myself. I wasn't making the connections that like I really felt like
You needed.
was going to get me there. And LFS was that. Like, I think the reason LFS is I had been in New York for so long, I wasn't really looking for a school in New York. I was looking for kind of a new experience, especially after COVID. I had been back at home in Boston for that extent. And a lot of the schools to me in U.S. are quite expensive, film schools. Not that LFS isn't, but I think it was an attractive thing in that it was studying, closer to Europe and studying English cinema potentially, and more European directors, and kind of getting a more global sense of things was what LFS was offering, which I was very interested in, and of course still am. Not that I don't, I think Hollywood is great and American cinema is great, but it was great to get into some more of that. And what else? I would say that, it was just, to live in another country was exciting. And I think it was just a mix that worked. And
well, it's quite good timing as well, because London and the UK is slowly become a bit of a film hub as well. Opportunities are everywhere, and you got some of the best kind of directors of photography and lighting, and
oh my God, actors
are based here. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
It is.
I would say that's a very interesting thing. It's New York. I always felt, and again, I was in a different level in New York, but I think the selection of actors here is freaking amazing.
Really.
Amazing.
Much better than America.
Again, I'm speaking from like, not like I wasn't in the film industry there,
fair.
but I feel like the selection here is very good. Even for your small project, for your medium-sized project, there is so many people that are excited about acting here. And for a director, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the gold dust.
Yeah. No.
Because I think that's because I love working with untrained actors as well. Like I like.
Why is
that? Because it's. I think a trained actor is going to give you really special things because they've trained, and especially on camera or in theater, like you're going to get special things that they know look good on camera. Yeah. But I think as a director, you should be able to take anyone and be able to give them a few words that help them get the performance. I think there's something on camera that's palpable about someone that might not be trained for camera as well. So some innocence that I think is really exciting to watch if you frame it in a certain way. I think people can look, for me at least, some people look and go, ooh, that you can tell they're not ready for it and that their voice isn't the right way or this. But for me, there's something almost like on the edge of like falling off or something like that, which I feel like is where you should be in art.
No, I was going to say, I feel like also it's a part of teaching with the edge of failure. And when you've got someone who's new and naive, they're not necessarily aware of that, whereas an experienced actor knows the boundaries they want to set.
100%.
And I can see it the same way with my painting, for example. Like the way I paint, the style I paint has come all from mistakes. And I think probably I learn more from my mistakes than I do from the thing. And so when you're working with a young actor or actress, you know, them making their mistakes, not realizing it, they learn from it faster. And actually that mistake might actually make part of the film.
It's the reason why I did a little acting early on. I did a couple of films, The Right Film and a Fulham Story, actually. And it was just to kind of like, because you do some gestures, some facial expressions, they look ugly on camera. They just aren't working, and that's great. That's, I think, a great thing about putting yourself, if you're directing something, to act in something, is that you only have yourself to blame, and you learn quick that way for sure. You know. Can I ask you, with your painting, what could you tell me some specific thing? You were talking about failures that actually
mistakes and style. But the complete style I did wasn't necessarily from anything. It was the mark making and going over the top and extending the lines was all just like trial and error.
Yeah.
And, you know, probably trying to be too precise and then going, actually, this looks a lot better looser.
It kind of has a sketched element.
Exactly. So what I try and do is I build up to have so much detail that it looks really overly detailed and thought through, but really a lot of it is just shooting at the hip and being like, let's just mark make here and mark make a lot and be loose with it. And the looser you are with it, the more convincing it can be.
That's very, very, it's very cool. Yeah, you can, it's very palpable, the style of it, but you've got a great trained approach at this point. It doesn't seem like it's like a great, it's really that line. I think that's, it's like a je ne sais quoi type of thing. Like you can't speak to it per se, but I think that's what style is. Style is like, oh, they're wearing this kind of hat, but that kind of coat and those kind of shoes. I haven't seen that before. That's cool.
I mean, for me, I know my worst paintings are when I'm too rigid.
Yeah.
So the looser I am, the less I care about it in terms of how it has to be, the better it is, because you work towards that end goal, but you work there knowing that there's not one way, there's like hundreds of ways.
Yeah. And I think again, with different faces, like Kate G. Finch, who is a phenomenal actress, and people are constantly telling me like, I love Kate's performance. I'm like, it's great because like, it's like, I've got someone who's like really knows what she's doing. Brendan as well, as the co-lead, like, you know, just, he understands, he's been on camera before, he gets it, he's been through the training, he's been to school for it. But then I had someone like KB Obaze, who plays Sally in the film, or Alex, who has less experience as far as I know. I think the first film he was in was Swimming, the film, and it's like, I think it's so fun to have both on camera because it's like, it puts people through a loop a little bit, and they go like, and then I think when you're telling like a kind of an innocent or an, like if there's a moment or like a part of the story that like requires some type of thing that would work with that type of acting, it can actually jump right to your heart. So that's things I love.
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Right, let's slip in towards the end of this, and I'd like to jump into the more like personal mindset stuff, just to understand thinking. So this is a new question. I found it the other day and I loved it. I think, who was it who did it? Was it was.
Can I ask you what podcast? Rick Rubin.
His question. He
Circle asked, the creative act. Great book.
So he asked this question to Matthew McConaughey, and I'm like, I'm taking that as a great question. So, what do you believe now that you didn't believe when you were younger?
Okay. I think in regards to filmmaking, it's more difficult than you think it would be. You know, I mean, I think I'm just not at the stage where I can say, hey, it's all working here and we've made it happen. You know, I'm not there yet. And I think like every little bit of things you do gets you there, you know, because I knew this podcast was going to be fun, because it's like, I know I have it in me. And I think the questions you sent me all are speaking to things that I could speak about, kind of effortlessly. So it's like that's a tricky thing. A thing I know now
What about personally?
Can you ask the question again? I just want to
Yeah.
have it fresh in my mind.
What do you believe now that you didn't believe when you were younger?
Personally, what do I believe now that I didn't believe when I was younger? Ooh. I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I really don't. I'm sorry. That I think what do I know now that I don't know when I was I would say
I could phrase it another way. What's the biggest misconception you've had about yourself?
I would say that like what I know now that I didn't know then is like how persistent I am maybe. But it's something you don't think about because it's kind of like, I don't know, like this is going to sound crazy, but like, yeah, if you hurt your leg or something like that and like you keep going, you know what I mean? Like you don't,
You're not willing to
I think
give
it's also
up.
maybe like a male kind of mindset where it's like, you don't think about any type of pain associated with like, you just go like a demon.
I actually think it's to do with obsession. I think it's when you're so totally obsessed with something and something you love, hurdles become speed bumps and speed bumps become like little pebbles.
Yeah.
And it's like you can really break down the impact that things that might stop someone else have, and you can really break down and remove that for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think like the obsession you have with something actually flattens out any problems and makes them seem as just like that's just part of the experience rather than that's going to stop me from achieving X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. It's all mindset. It's all how you look at the roadmap. Someone who's less socially inclined will go, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't like working with actors. I hate working with actors. It makes me awkward. I'd rather produce. Get the director in there to do that. I don't have to work with the actors then. I can just be there in the auditions. I could say yes and no. They love it. But for me, you get that funny feeling in your stomach. You're like, oh God, why did I sign up for this? Why am I doing this? But then like, you kind of like get into this spot and you're like, it's really like you're being shaken in a jar kind of, but you like it. And yeah, I think you said it totally right. Like it's just, that's maybe why it's difficult for me is because I'm thinking about it in relation to kind of my career, which has been such a big part of my life.
Yeah, of course. What about imposter syndrome? Have you ever suffered it? And you said you go in and you go, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Have you ever gone somewhere and gone, God, I'm not good enough. Like, I really need to pull this one out of the bag or rub out of the hat, whatever.
I feel like it's, I feel like that's with directing, it's like, you're doing a little of a dance a little bit, right? People are going to watch you. Like, it's like the film within the film or something like that. Yeah, there might be a crazy scene that like maybe you didn't prepare for perfectly or especially if it's something like a vertical drama, like generally, and again, I think it's maybe like part of like the process my dad has, like doing surgery, like to have things planned out ahead of time. If you're going to do, and that's why I don't write like these crazy VFX scenes or anything like that. Especially early on, it just doesn't make sense to be like, oh, we're going to do this battle scene in like a weird area. I don't put myself in that position to like mess up when I'm making my own projects. Like if I'm going to do a cool VFX scene or a battle scene or a science fiction element, I'm going to plan that out.
Yeah.
You best believe. But like for the vertical dramas where it's very much fly by the seat of your pants and you might have skipped that page because you're kind of like, well, it's so much and I only got 2 days to prepare.
Yeah.
Then it's just like, well, you do the best you can. Like that's the key is that you do the best you can. And you've hired and you've brought in the people that are also going to help you do the best you can. Like an example is there's like a car crash scene. And it wasn't something that we were pulling out on the day, but I told the production designer, get some sugar glass and the makeup artist, get some blood. And tell the actors, listen, this is how we're going to do the scene. You put them in the back of the car, you put the sugar glass on, you put the blood on, and then you have the camera do some interesting angles with a specific type of lighting that looks like they just were in a car crash with some flashing lights maybe. And boom, you've got a car crash scene, and it looked great. They're like, she's, pulling him, it's kind of this dramatic, like lovers entwined in this thing, but that's what you do. Adaptability, man. Like that, and that's documentary too. because you don't know if you're going to go, say, for even the day food service. Maybe there's going to be a destitute person that might do something erratic, or they might say something really lovingly, and you might go over here. Look at this, and then you get the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
So you have no doubt in your ability to deliver it one way or another.
Yeah.
Love that. I think actually the thing is though, I think that's quite common in people who are so obsessed because they don't not see an end point to
no failure.
There's
no
failure.
Where is the failure, man?
Yeah.
You point me to the failure and I'll point you to the other side of it. You know what I mean? Like that's the trick.
But that's a superpower.
Yeah.
Think about how many people let failure limit them and stop them even trying something because they're scared of the failure along the way.
Yeah, but I think what I would say about that is that it has to do with experience. And we were actually talking about failure last night. We were talking about, I don't like my term 2 film. They're term 2 students. They're in a different stage. I feel like I failed, or I feel like I made a mistake. And the thing is that when you are making things, you make them so rapidly in succession where failure hits you so much in the face that then you become numb to it. And then what does failure do? It goes away. It's not necessarily that you're becoming like this like expert at dodging failure, because then you're thinking about failure, thinking about dodging failure, but you're thinking about failure going away.
You're an expert at absorbing failure.
Yeah.
And turning it into success.
Well, it's not even absorbing. The failure, I got nothing to do with failure.
Well, okay, no, fair enough, actually, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah. It dissipates. It goes away from the image.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. It's a super cool mindset, that. It's rare. Okay. This is interesting. So how are you able to kind of create space in your mind? So project's done, you've got another one. How can you create space that you can kind of release from the one before? You got movies you have different genres. How do you create that space and step away from it and really kind of reset yourself to be at that ground zero again, working up?
No, it's another very, very good question, because once you do 7 or 8 or 5 days for the grad film swimming, you come out of it strained, because it's emotional and physical, and that's what I love about it. It isn't just like, I worked all day, I lifted and I was out there in the fields and I was working, or I was just in the office all day editing all in my brain, no physical work whatsoever. It's both. Especially early on, you're moving the film, you're moving the camera. Director maybe less so, because they're kind of more, it's a bit more heady for the director, the cinematographer, and the grip and the lighting, moving all day, heavy, strong, like half and half, but for me, but still you're potentially running or doing all these crazy things. So what I would say is that when you get off a project, you just sit. I think you get this wave of like, it feels good, like it's really a good feeling. And you have all the material, nothing went away, and then it's just a process like recovering from anything. It's just like a couple of days, you relax, you get your things together. And you start to think about the editing. And maybe that's something you do a day after if you're going to edit it, or you do it 3 days after, or you get the material to the editor and they start and you say, listen, I'd like a rough edit or rushes in like a week. What do you think? Can you do that? And you start the process.
Do you need to kind of forget also that film process when you get into editing, or do you want to have that really fresh in your mind? Like, do you want to come into editing with a kind of a clear mindset rather than this is from yesterday and this is what happened here, and I was thinking, do you want to forget all your thoughts from the filmmaking process?
I think again, because of my editing background, I have a very concrete way that I think I'll edit it. Like I shoot it to make the editing easy per se. Sure. It's like kind of, I like to think that like even the scenes I write could be switched around and edited in a creative way, because they're kind of blocks. And like even storytelling wise, like I think like that's kind of like a Lego or something like that, where you could kind of lift it, maybe not perfectly, and kind of switch things around. And that is interesting to me as well. Like just this idea of like, how can I make the story kind of like, not only just something that might be like something that lots of people would be interested in, from whatever background they might be, but also the way we can put it together in a way. I don't know.
Nice. All right, last 2 questions.
Sure.
What does success mean to you?
It's a good question. I think it's continuous work, or like, so you, at least for the next period of time, that you have work that, and that you're being compensated for it. I think that's very important. We all got to pay the rent.
Yeah, true.
We all got to pay the rent. And so that's very important to me because I want to have a family. I want to do all these nice things and, have a home and all this stuff. And, that's very important to me. That's a part of like the family aspect of things. But also, to be creatively fulfilled in your line of work and what you're passionate about that's also very important. So I think consistent work, to be compensated for it is very important, and to be challenged. Like to always have a project, whether you're writing it yourself. Right, the writing is the funny aspect of it. I see writing as like the final frontier for this type of stuff because we've learned about the grip, we've learned about the camera, we've learned about the tripod, we've learned about the editing. But what about the writing? The writing is really like this, like there's so much you can write about. And so for me, that's kind of like, it's tricky in a way, but it's a fun thing to tackle. And then you can bring script editors in. They go, Greg, like, listen, this first act, it just doesn't do anything. It's just totally strange and or the third act. But that's, I think, what my fascination with experimentation is in experimental film is that, like, I think experimental film is interesting because it's like, it's transporting emotions in completely kind of alien way, potentially. I guess maybe not everyone would agree with that, but like it could potentially seem very alien. And actually, I think you can incorporate what's cool about LFS is a narrative school, very focused on like creating a narrative that is like a kind of a traditional narrative, I guess you'd say. They kind of pressure on that. And so for me, I think if you can introduce experimental thoughts and ideas into like a traditional narrative in interesting ways, you can really create, like, I think some of the best films have done that. Like, look at it's the Hitchcock film Vertigo. When he's going he starts to lose his mind and his hair, there's a point where his hair goes up and he starts to go into like a spiral. I mean, I wouldn't say that's like incredibly experimental, but like it's quite atypical for like like a Hitchcock film. And like that's the type of things that like are really exciting to me, is kind of zig where others would zag.
Yeah, no, nice.
That's a way to create style and create your own marks.
No, nice answer. So. The future vision for yourself, do you see yourself going into like the big feature film stuff or sticking with the experimental? Like, what does the path look like for you now?
Features, absolutely. Yeah. I'm writing a feature.
Yeah.
And it's all stuff based off life. You feel like you have a certain amount of experiences living in New York or doing what you do, being in the industry, but also like just living your life, like having fun times traveling and things like that. So yeah, this feature's about dating in your 20s in New York, or in any city actually. It's me trying to pull back, but I'm pulling ideas from those experiences of meeting people and kind of going out with friends, but also like trying to find love, and also kind of the dating apps thing, and like kind of how that was. I don't think I've seen enough films that really kind of deal with like online kind of first date, blind date kind of culture, or whatever it was. That was kind of popular now, but was very popular then as well. The different bars that were happening, the different club scene that was happening, at least in New York or like any big city, just in those feelings of like vulnerability. I would love to make a film about that.
Do you think love is an easy topic or a hard topic to create a film on? So majority of music is about love.
Yeah.
Loads of films about love. Do you think it's easy or hard? Because you might get lost in.
I think it's hard. I think love is like a very real thing, but like, yeah, to capture it in any type of art form is, that's, I think, a big inspiration for most types of art, I think is love. It's right up there. So, but I think it's not necessarily about, making a film about love per se, but more about, meeting people and like communication and like vulnerability. Like those are all things that are like, it's like, I think that's kind of, when you're finding love, it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to go, like, it's like trying to shoot directly down the line.
Yeah.
It's like, don't do that. You kind of have to, some things you have to do that, right? Like target practice. Yeah. You shoot down the line, but like with things that are like more,
you have to kind of let the stream take you where it's going to go.
Let the stream take you where it wants to go. And that's what a film is sometimes as well. For me, at least, it's like, write about these characters, write about this specific mindset for this character, write about the specific mindset. What are they in it for? What do they love to do? And then maybe there's a spark.
Love that. Final question. What are the keys to succeeding and following your dreams?
Yeah, dedication. I think good family and a good support system. Try and find that. It doesn't need to be your family. It can be friends or it can be whatever you got. But you need support. You need a community. I think my films are a lot about communities and like institutions kind of coming together to support and find a way. Even if it's whether it's guidance or just it can be a lot of different things that a community provides, but it needs to be there. It's something I'm trying to do with the London Film School, is in regards to the alumni and trying to create screenings. And we just did a screening of a couple of my films at Battersea Labor Club, and we did a screening at London Film School recently, and just keeping that alive because kind of people go off in disparate ways, and especially in the arts. Yeah, some people might be super successful shooting every day, shooting every week, and some people just sit there and go, why am I not doing the right thing? And I think to create just fun events where we can go watch a movie and have a cheap drink or just hang out, all of us together, and it can be LFS students and just friends of the school, and kind of create this unofficial network of like, and I don't want it to be like a networking event or something like that. I want it to be like we watch a film, we throw in some music, and we play some darts and pool and hang out, and then that kind of becomes like a petri dish for creativity. And do it in an interesting way. Just don't do it where it's like it doesn't always need to be like Center London Covent Garden or something like that. Let's do it somewhere a little different. Let's add a little flavor to it. It's like culture. I think we're talking about like development of culture, and that's how, and that kind of lends hand in hand with like future endeavors and like jobs, gigs,
100%.
like really banding together, the creatives banding together to get what they want out of the people that got the money.
Yeah, no, 100%. It reminds me of this kind of idea that you create your network and you're the average of the 6 people you spend the most time with, and being able to create a network around you, a group of people and a community around you which trusts you and pushes you to be better is definitely an essential quality.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's it for me, man.
No, perfect. Greg,
that's it.
Thank you very much for coming on the Valley of Outlaws podcast. It's been entertaining. It's been fascinating to know your journey. And one thing I can say is I can hear your passion in everything you say and do, because we talk and you go, oh, and this, and I'm like, wow, okay, whoa,
yeah,
bring it back in. But it's
the hands.
It's the passion, and you've got so much energy and time and just focus on the direction you want to go. And I think that gets you so much further as well than just having an endpoint. You've got to be obsessed. Mm-hmm. You've got to be so obsessed with what you're doing to be able to achieve it. And I can see that with you, and I recognize it and appreciate it and credit you to that. So well done, and appreciate you coming on here and talking about your journey so far. And fingers crossed we're going to see you winning stuff at Cannes Film Festival, get those Oscars in eventually. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So fingers crossed, man. But wishing you the best.
Thank you so much. It's really the when you sit down, you crack open the laptop and like, what do you grab? You got your list or you got your little agenda, and what do you go towards, man? Like that's really the thing. And then once you really start to get into that mindset, imagine the stories you can tell. Because look at Kubrick, man. Look at the science fiction he did. Look at the horror he did. Look at the period pieces he did. Look at the futurist stuff he did. He went everywhere, and he's a guy that was doing that in the 60s. Think of the future, and that's why I talk about the future of film. What is a film going to look like in 200 years from now? When you give yourself that open palette, man, you can make some amazing things. And so you have to build the engine first. And so we're getting there.
You're getting there. You're on the journey.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Yes.
Cheers. Thank you so much for listening to the Valley of Outlaws podcast. If you enjoyed it, please do share it with friends and family. And please see all of our news across our socials.